This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Saturday Morning Mysteries. We're your hosts. I'm Grace.
And I'm Alexis.
And we're back to continue our fall, our cozy, our Thanksgiving arc this November, where really, if you can tie it into anything to do with those three things in any way, shape, or form, it counts. Is someone falling in the episode? It's a fall episode.
Then it's fall. Does someone look cozy and warm in the episode? Yeah, sure. It's probably a fall episode then. Yeah.
Yep. Is it a dog show like my last one? Thanksgiving episode.
So yes. Very clever.
Thank you. We'll have 3 more episodes in this arc, and then we'll go to our winter arc. And today, this is Alexis's first nebulously fall episode or directly fall episode. I don't know. Let's find out. Take it away.
Well, I'm not as creative or clever as you. So Grace is like, oh yeah, dog show. That's another thing that happens in fall. And I'm like, no, Thanksgiving. Where's the Thanksgiving episode? It must be Thanksgiving.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we made this loose rules for me.
Yeah. I mean, for everyone, honestly, next year, because I think I've about exhausted all of the Thanksgiving episodes that I could find. So next year, I'm probably going to be more like you and do something that is loosely tied into
all right,
the autumn
I'm so excited
season.
for what Thanksgiving you actually found, because they're rare. You've heard us talk about this before. It's
rare.
It's tragedy, travesty. We need more. So I'm so curious as to what. I guess I could have looked at the tracker of like what show even has Thanksgiving. Okay, good. Good. And I'm curious. I'm excited.
It's interesting. It is difficult to find an episode of Thanksgiving type things, especially ones that have anything to do with crime or like mystery or spooky stuff. And so to be fair, what I have found today, when you watch it to, do your part of editing the video and everything and to just watch it, you'll notice it's only like a 6-minute long episode of the show. So we're reaching here. I was like, hey, it's a cartoon, though. It was on TV, so I can use it. But that's why I keep giving you the heads up that this episode may be a little short because the episode, including the intro and outro credits, is 6.5 minutes long when you watch on YouTube. So, but it's 6 minutes of Thanksgiving. So, hey, it counts.
Wow. Okay, what could this even be?
Even more excitingly, it's a show that we have not talked about on this podcast yet.
Okay.
It's similar to like what I did last year, where I just kind of pulled something from way back in the past with Huckleberry Hound, legendary cartoon from way before our time, something we'd never talked about on this show.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing this year, not Huckleberry Hound, but instead, today we are going to be talking about an episode of Casper the Friendly Ghost. And this episode, or like TV special, the 6-minute special that came out in 1953, is called Do or Die It.
Wait, I guess I didn't realize. I'm just like putting together the timeline of like the Casper movie, and then I know they did the animated show after the Casper movie, but I guess I didn't
before too
fully realize. Are you going to get into the history?
Oh, yeah. And again, because the episode of the show is only 6 minutes long. So more of this episode of our podcast today is probably going to be about me talking about the show in general and Casper as a character and like his backstory than I am. It's going to be like 50-50 that. And yes, perfect for this podcast though, right? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, perfect. And also, wow. Okay. I'm really glad you're talking about the history because my mind is currently like on the fritz.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't realize that Casper was as old as it is either. I mean, I knew that it was a show before the live action movie came out, and I believe it was 1995. We'll talk about that in a minute, don't worry. But I didn't think it was this old. I mean,
what year did
this episode 1953, October 16th, 1953. And this isn't the first episode. Like it came out before this. So I mean, sorry not to age my parents, but this show is slightly older than both of my parents.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy to think about.
This is our oldest thing by far.
I think so, because Huckleberry Hound was 56, maybe?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought it was like late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, it was. You're right. It might have been early 60s even. It was, I think so, because it was after our parents were born, that one. So yeah, I like that's our like
Our
our benchmark.
gauge.
Was like, was that before or after our parents were born?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Wow,
yes.
okay.
We're going to talk about Casper the Friendly Ghost, which I think is perfect for a cartoon crime comedy podcast because he's creepy. He's a ghost. There's a lot of mystery going on with Casper. And because we're grasping at straws for Thanksgiving content.
All right,
So
I
this
forgot
is
this
what I
was
was
even
able to
Thanksgiving
find.
episode.
I know, right? And I guess for full disclosure, I wanted to do a Casper episode for Halloween, but then I
That's right.
remembered that I
Zombie
legally
Island
was
made a
obligated to
promise.
do Zombie Island. Yeah, so I did that
You made a
instead.
spooky promise, which is the most legally binding promise you can make.
I know. I can't turn back on it. So but I already had a bunch of like background on Casper researched and like typed out. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll just use this for Thanksgiving now, and we'll just
Nice.
continue spooky season into November a little bit by
Perfect.
talking about ghosts after you talked about a ghost last week too.
Yeah.
In Funky Phantom. So before we get into the episode, like the story, let's talk about Casper because this is actually a pretty legendary character, I think, in animation. Like we grew up with them, our parents, as I just said, grew up with them.
Apparently.
Kids today are still growing up with them. So who is Casper, the friendly ghost? If for whatever reason you haven't heard of this character yet, Casper is a pleasant, personable, and friendly ghost, as his name
So
suggests.
did you use thesaurus.com the word friendly?
Friendly, just put in all the synonyms, the synonyms. Yeah, like personable, friendly, pleasant, nice.
Kind,
Yes.
lovely.
Actually, no, Wikipedia did that because pretty sure I just copied that sentence from Wikipedia.
Even better. Good.
But yes, and he is also the protagonist and main character of the well-known animated series, The Friendly Ghost. So Casper, he's like this cute little ghost child with, hilariously, as Wikipedia describes, a New York accent. Which
I don't remember that.
With a New York accent.
Fucking found
like,
a Newsies, we always do.
I was going to say, it's like Christian Bale and
walking here.
Newsies. Yeah.
I'm floating here. I'm haunted
I got
here.
paper here. Hey, mister.
Hey, mister.
I gotta get out to the graveyard. What are you doing in my way? Oh, New
Flipping
York
a coin.
kid. And he's like little plump ghost boy too. You know, he's got a little belly and kind of plump cheeks, at least in his earlier appearances back in the 50s. And this little ghost boy, he inhabits a haunted house. Often we see along with a community of other adult ghosts who really just live off of scaring living people. Like, you know, that's like their ghostly job is to go out and haunt people or to haunt anyone who comes around the house. But Casper, on the other hand, this dude's ahead of his time. He's a non-conformist among ghosts, which again is on the Wikipedia page. I wish that I was a wordsmith to like come up with using the word non-conformist to describe this cartoon character. Yeah. But Casper, he doesn't like, you know, to stick in with the crowd. He's an oddball. He prefers to make friends with people rather than trying to scare them and haunt them. And so the show typically revolves around Casper going out into the world, leaving his haunted mansion, hoping to find friends in the real world so that he can feel more human again, feel normal, and not be so alone, while his adult ghost family members, whatever, are usually, you know, being mean to him, pestering him, making fun of him for actually having like a good heart or whatever, a good ghost heart. So, which is, first of all, in and of itself, sad.
Can I ask a question? Is there lore around how Casper died?
Put a pin in it. We're going to talk about it.
Okay,
yes, there kind of is. Yes.
Okay, great.
So the character was first created on April 20th, 1915. Nice.
Wow, 1915.
1915. I mean, come on, it's April 20th. Yeah, I can't just leave that hanging there.
It's just my dating anniversary, Alexis.
Oh, is it really?
His brother's birthday.
Nice. Nice.
That's what you were nicing at. That's it, everyone.
Also, that's a special day for many reasons, to many people for different reasons. So now I have like four different reasons to celebrate April 20th.
Yeah, welcome. Casper,
So,
first and foremost.
yeah, this is the fifth reason, Casper. So, yes, it was first created in 1915, so going way back by Seymour Wright, I think is how you pronounce his name, and Joe Oriolo. And so Wright was the one who created like the idea of Casper. He was more the writer, and then Oriolo was the animator. So he created the illustrations. So they came together and they started making children's books and like little small comics and stuff with this character, or just like little illustration books. But it and the idea of Casper remained wholly unpublished and wasn't really turning heads in the entertainment industry. Like they were trying to shop it around, but no one was really buying it.
They're like, we're going into World War I in 3 years. What do you want us to? Oh,
and well, I guess not World War I, but not, too much longer, or I guess 30 years, a little less than 30 years in the future, while Wright was away on military service during World War II. Yes. Oriolo somehow managed, I guess they upgraded things, updated some stuff maybe. And Oriolo, who I guess wasn't fighting in the war, he wasn't drafted or whatever, he managed to sell the rights to the Casper book and like illustrations to Paramount Pictures, Famous Studios, animation division.
Cool.
For whom in the past he had occasionally done some work like as an illustrator and animator. So that probably is what it was. He made more ties and was eventually able to like connect with people to finally sell it that many years later.
Oh, they kept working on it that whole time. I love that.
Cute. And
don't give up on your dreams.
Don't do it, guys. But here's the thing. Advocate for yourself, because Oriolo was only paid $175 to do the entire pilot film for Casper the Friendly Ghost.
No future royalties, obviously. Never.
$175, here's the check. And darn it, I wish I would have checked the inflation calculator on that to see what it's worth now, but I don't imagine it's more than like $1,000 now. Yeah, maybe a couple, maybe.
Still not enough for a show that we still grew up with
to this day. Exactly. And so as a side note too, I couldn't find anything about Wright's contribution, the writer, Seymour Wright, or if he was pissed at all about Oriolo selling the rights without him, because it didn't mention that like Oriolo, and I read a few different articles, like not just Wikipedia. I was like, because I'm intrigued by this.
Did he survive the war?
He did.
Okay, great. So, I was like,
which was my first thought. Yeah, but that would also be kind of shitty that like Oriolo didn't at least like give any money to his Wright's family or anything like that. So anyways, I couldn't find anything on that, but I know I don't think
stopped writing. It started in 1915. That's 30 years to do this project. Maybe it was like they stopped in the 20s or something like that, or like in the early 30s, and then because the other one was just still an animator, he was like, oh, this is a project I've just been doing for 30 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, eventually Wright did come back on to write for the show once he got back from war. So yeah, so I don't know if there was any sort of argument or falling out, or if he was like, oh shit, thanks for doing that while I was like a little busy
maybe they
in
were
Europe.
Maybe he was like, hi, Justin. Thank you.
Oh, coffee. I didn't even see him walk in. I'm in the zone. He's got his hood up. He looked like one of the villains from The Funky Phantom, sneaking in with like a hood on and like trying not to look at the camera. Yeah,
I got it.
But
say something.
So I don't know if these two had a falling out. Yeah, go ahead.
I wonder if it was like, hey, for whatever let's give him the benefit of the doubt. It was a health reason that he could go get drafted in, World War II, wherever we're going on. But maybe it was like, hey, look, I got to go to Europe for America. Can you do something with this time for us?
Yeah, while you're
do
here,
something productive while I go risk my life. Thanks.
Yeah, go see if we can make some extra money off of that.
Yeah, so the animator was like, he's going to kill me if I don't do this. But
okay.
That's my lore I'm building for them.
Okay, sounds good to me. So
can't confirm or deny it.
And if so, exactly. And I mean, probably worked because, down the road, these two and, many others who they would bring onto the team along the way would go on to create 55 or maybe even more than 55 theatrical cartoons with the title of The Friendly Ghost between the years 1945 and 1959. So 55
Nice.
cartoons in like 15 years is pretty
Wow.
good, you know?
Okay.
And yeah, seems like it's pretty popular because they
This
also
is
decided, yeah, go
this
ahead.
is just insane, like history of the
It's
show.
that long. Yeah, it's
Wow.
super,
This is
yeah.
cool.
And the cartoons were so popular that in 1952, they were like, hey, I mean, let's also make some comic books. So they started making
Cool.
comic books with Casper, and he really blew up to become a household name that is immediately associated, as we know, with friendliness and cuteness. Like, oh, it's
Hmm.
Casper. Yay, we like him. And so despite that, like painting him in that way, rewatching as an adult and like reading into the history of this
Hmm.
show and like how the first few episodes went,
Uh-huh.
sure, he's a friendly, cutesy little New York talking
New York
kid
music
ghost.
kid.
But his first appearances were actually hella traumatic and are actually very I don't know how parents were able to quite explain this some of this
I
stuff to
mean,
their kids as they
the
were watching.
parents were fresh from
So
war. Like, you know?
yeah, they were like, "Oh, this is beautiful. This is kids need to see this kind of stuff these
Yeah,
days. They need to start
exactly.
asking how their peers die with
Yes,
like, yes,
exactly. I was
life is
like,
unfair,
the
children."
moms were like, watch this so you understand why dad's the way he is.
Hmm.
That's obviously a joke about PTSD, everyone, and
Yeah.
why it's horrible.
Yeah, so hey, kids, they grew up with it. So the friendly ghost, and we'll do a little recap of what those first couple of episodes were like, and
Yes,
to
thank you.
explain, because they will both explain his backstory a little bit,
Oh,
and they will
great.
also just explain how, like, honestly, kind of fucked up of a show this is. Um, the
Okay.
Friendly Ghost, which was the first cartoon to feature Casper, that's just what they called it. It was released by Paramount in 1945, like I said, with a few differences from that book that Wright and Oriolo had published and like shopped
Hmm.
around. So in this episode, this first episode of The Friendly Ghost, Casper seeks to go out and be nice to people, while his ghostly uncles plan a night of scaring locals.
Okay.
So much like I said before, Casper always wants to make friends. His uncles and family, adult ghost family members are like, we're ghosts. We're supposed to scare people. That's our job, not like
Hmm.
them. So Casper, as per usual, getting into arguments with his uncles and stuff, he decides to pack up his belongings and he goes out into the world, hoping to find a friend. However, as he's going through these fields and the woods to look for a friend, he comes across a bunch of different animals, like a rooster, a cat, a mole, a group of hens, etc. And
Hmm.
every time that he meets them, he very kindly introduces himself, like, "Hi, I'm Casper. Want to be my friend?" And these poor animals, they take one look at Casper, and
Hmm.
every single time, one after one, they just essentially like die on the spot from looking eye to eye with a ghost. Like they let out these horrifying screams and they just run off into different
Oh
directions.
God.
And I mean, it's like time and time and time and again, each different animal he
Okay.
tries to communicate with. And so after like the sixth animal does this to him, Casper is like, wow, like he's pretty distraught. He puts his head down and he just kind of starts crying, wondering like why no one will be friends with him. And so he then unsuccessfully attempts, thankfully, and trigger warning, sorry to anyone listening, but Casper, he tries to actually kill himself and commit suicide in this very
What
first
the
episode of the show.
fuck?
Yeah, he literally, like while he's crying and distraught about all of this, he like floats over to railroad tracks as he hears a train coming and lays down on them and says like, why will no one be friends with me? I would rather die, basically. I guess apparently forgetting that he is already dead, but like he
Oh,
straight up like he says all of these things, like it's clear that he's trying to kill himself. He's not just joking or anything. He's like, I would rather die than not have any other friends. And like
oh my
he's
God.
crying as this train is approaching him, right? But then he's obviously a ghost, so the train just goes over him, and then he gets back up, and he's like even more sadder because he's like, "Fuck,
Oh
I can't even
my
die."
God. This
Yeah,
is the first episode?
This is the very first episode. I actually ended up watching it too because after reading through this, I was like, "Oh, I have to see this. I have to see it. It's like
Oh
as
my God.
traumatizing as it
And it
sounds, and
was.
it is.
Oh
It
my God. This
is.
is
Yeah.
insane.
Well, it gets worse.
I
Kid, I'm not even, that's half of the episode. So, and again,
What
this
the
isn't even the Thanksgiving
fuck?
episode. This is just the first appearance of him.
This
So
was the tone
after
setting, and everyone said, "We want 110 more years of this."
more, we want this to
Yes.
go on in perpetuity. Give us
Oh,
more, make it even cuter if you can, or not, we'll still watch it.
oh my
So
God.
after he realizes that he can't kill himself, he gets up and then he starts just wandering around through the woods and like this area some more. And he encounters two little kids named Bonnie and Johnny. They're siblings. And for whatever reason, these two kids, they're like, yeah, you can be our friend. And
Okay.
so, they get along, they start playing and everything. And the two kids try to bring Casper back to their house so that he can like eat and hang out with them.
Mm.
But the children's mother, who is apparently like a widow and she's really poor and is like struggling to feed these kids, like any other normal human, at first when she sees Casper, she is utterly frightened and is like trying to
Yeah.
cast him out of the house, trying to protect her kids, fearful
Yeah.
that this ghost, like she can't move, she's poor. So she's like, I guess we live in a haunted house now.
Oh
This sucks. Like we're going to
no.
have to do something. She's trying to save her children. But later, again, she's not doing too well financially when the greedy landlord who owns her house comes to pay or comes to collect this month's rent.
Uh-huh.
Casper, he's still in the house when the landlord gets there.
Hell
And
yeah.
so the landlord sees him and literally like has a heart attack. I don't think he dies. I think he like runs out of there
I
and he
mean,
like tears up the mortgage and is like, oh, you can have the house. Like, take it. I don't
oh,
need
okay,
you.
Casper.
And
Robin
he runs
Hood.
away and is never seen again.
Great.
So the mom is like, okay, wait a minute. I think we like this ghost. So
Oh yeah.
this episode ends with the mother eventually like bringing in Bonnie and Johnny and Casper and like she lets Casper stay for a little bit, and
Yeah.
eventually Casper is like sent off to go to school with the two, and he's like wearing normal clothes like he's a
Oh,
human,
funny.
living like a child, and
Yeah.
life is good again. So
Wow.
that's his first appearance, which
Wow.
yeah, that's there's a lot going on there. That's crazy.
The landlord comes in and he's just like, like flipping the little coin. He's like, well, let's talk about renters' rights here.
Yeah, right.
I know my tenement rights.
Oh, you mean Casper is doing that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with his
Casper's
like New
doing it.
York accent? Yeah, he's
Uh-huh.
like, let me tell you a thing or two about the Bill of Tenants rights here. And I guess they're in New York City. I don't know where they are.
Who knows?
Anyways,
Wow.
so that was his first appearance, which does
Horrible.
have its ups and downs. But here's the thing: in subsequent cartoons and like the next couple of appearances he had, things actually get darker and a little bit wilder. So I guess maybe the
Ooh,
animators and the writers saw that first episode and they're like, let's
more.
up those numbers. Yeah, more. Let's get even more traumatic. And this is
No.
especially in the episode There's Good Booze Tonight, which I think maybe this is like the third appearance.
Okay.
So this episode, it takes place where, well, again, it starts out with Casper doing the same thing. He wants to find friends. His uncles and stuff are making fun of him. So he leaves the house,
Hmm.
takes all of his things. He's searching through the woods and everything, trying to find animals to play with. All of them are scared, literally the
Yeah.
exact same plot as the first one. But
Yes.
in this case, he encounters a hunter and his dogs that are chasing a little fox cub who he names Ferdy through these
Uh-huh.
woods. And Casper, he quickly befriends this fox and he's like trying to protect him from the hunters and the hunting dogs.
Okay.
And so these two are like being chased through the woods by these hunters and everything. And although Casper is eventually able to scare the hunter and the dogs away, after scaring them, Casper realizes that Ferdy had actually been shot and killed during the chase.
And left
So
him behind.
no. So what happens is after he scares away the hunters and the dogs, he goes back to Ferdy like, Ferdy, we did it. They're gone now. They're not going to hurt you. But Ferdy's just laid out on the grass in front of Casper And Casper's like, Ferdy, and he's like pointing, like, or like poking
Well,
him,
this
and
is
he's
Fox
not
and the Hound
moving.
shit.
It's literally like the Fox and the Hound. And then Casper just starts crying over
Oh
this dead
my
fox's
God.
body again. Like, why did you have to leave me, Ferdy? I didn't want you to die. It's so sad.
What the fuck is
Um,
happening?
but thankfully, and also still traumatically,
He's a
happily
ghost.
traumatically, maybe. Yes, Ferdy returns as a ghost. We like see, I
Great.
think, I forget if we see the ghost of him just rise from the fox or like rise from a grave that Casper digs. Because I did like real quick watch this one too. Because again, I was
Tug a
like, is it
grave.
actually this traumatic? Oh shit. Yes, it is.
Ugh, I'm
Um,
unwell.
so yeah, those were Casper's first few appearances, where basically
Wow.
the story was just repetitively Casper trying to find human friends because he didn't like being a ghost, him being ridiculed by his family, his ghost family members, him going out, finding a friend, only for him to still be shunned in the end by humans or
Yeah.
have that animal friend be killed. Like that
Die.
was the
Got
story
it.
over and over and over again for
Wow. I
years.
mean,
And
again,
so, yeah.
men who had just come back from war less than
Mhm.
10 years ago were like, this is
Yep.
nothing. You're gonna
Yeah.
learn today.
Yeah. Like, trust
Wow.
me, it's going to get dark. You're going to lose a lot of things that you love. So let's make a
Yeah,
cartoon about it to get you ready for that moment,
this is
kids.
insane.
Yeah. And so,
Wow.
following the success of somehow these
Of trauma,
traumatic stories, yeah,
of
Casper would go on
traumatizing a
to
generation.
appear. Yeah. I guess these kids were like masochists or something. They were like,
Is
yes,
this why
injected
our
in my
world
veins.
ended up the way that it did
It may be
with
Casper.
that
This is the Casper the
generation?
Friendly Ghost timeline. This is
Lines up.
that's what changed everything. It was from
Someone
that
study
moment.
this.
Yeah. So he would go on, Casper would go on to appear in 5 TV shows ranging from the years like 1959 to 2012 and the live action film adapted wait, what am I saying? The live action film adaptation
Yes.
by Universal Pictures in 1995, of course, starring Christina Ricci,
Yes.
and where I did not realize this, Casper in that movie was the first computer generated character to actually star in a film. So in
Oh, really?
1995, up until then, like they had CGI characters and stuff, but they
Yeah, but
weren't
not the
the
main
main
character.
character. Yeah. So I thought
Oh,
that was kind of cool.
interesting.
1995. Yeah.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, there were 4 like follow-up direct to TV or
Yeah.
video movies from that one. So basically this character has a whole big universe of
Yeah.
source material out there. It has been going strong since 1945.
Wow.
And in all of that time, like you asked earlier, Grace, there is a massive mystery among people who have watched this
Let's
show,
hear this lore.
asking, how the hell did this little boy die?
How?
Because you can't just put a little ghost boy in a show and not expect people to think like, wait, this is a ghost boy. How
Clearly
did he
this
become a ghost? Because
this is someone
it's
who is
very
dead.
sad. Yeah, it's
Yes.
I mean, even thinking back to Funky Phantom, like it's still very sad how Mudsie became a ghost. But like
Yeah.
he was a full-grown adult, which, I still don't love to see it, but
Yeah.
this
The
is a
kid is
little
different.
boy.
But and
Yeah.
also the other reason I started asking that question was I didn't realize because in the live action, which obviously that's what I'm familiar with,
Yeah.
I don't recall him like living with all of his family. I think there were some adult ghosts and stuff, but like,
There were a few. Yeah, there's a
yeah, that
few who
makes me be
actually
like,
scared the shit out of me when I was a
wait,
kid, by the way,
he
but that's another
exactly.
subject.
But yeah, I was
Mhm.
like, wait, but he in the old show and comics lived with his entire family? Like what?
Yeah.
How,
It changes. They're like the
like who
3
the adult
ghosts
ghosts
that are
are?
exactly like the 3
Yeah.
ghosts that
Okay.
are in the movie are slightly different from some of the ghosts that pop up in the
Okay.
shows. So they just kind of like put
Vibe it
some
out.
sort of like creepy, weird, like mean adult ghost in the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, to kind of be like that plot device that they are oh
Yes.
so used to using over and over again.
Yep.
So yeah, the show actually never expressly mentions any explanation as to how this little boy died and became a ghost. And some early on in the show's airing or whatever, some even
Mhm.
debated whether Casper actually even was a ghost. But again, in that first episode that I
Oh.
recapped very
Yeah,
briefly
kind of
before,
confirmed it.
yeah, and there is a scene in it where you literally see Casper as a ghost sitting at his own gravestone,
Oh,
like
great. You
his
mentioned that.
grave. So you're like, oh, yes, that, okay, there is no debate
He
there.
is
That's
dead.
settled. He is indeed dead and a ghost. And so seeing that this wasn't the best, maybe, type of content to present to little children,
Yeah.
stories about a dead boy who wants to kill himself because he can't find friends in
Yes.
this world, the publisher began giving like a template or like a stock answer anytime they were asked about it by
Oh,
like people also
us.
wondering, us basically, yes,
Yeah, to this day.
70 years later. Basically, they just kind of started saying, like, look, he's a ghost because his parents were already ghosts when they got married. Duh. So now he's a ghost. They had a ghost baby. Nothing to see here,
Oh,
kids and parents. Here's this comic for you. Buy it. Here,
buy
here's the
it.
Casper action figure. Buy it.
Yeah, merch, merch, merch.
So that was their cop out, saying that his parents
Oh,
were already dead. Which, yeah, I was like, okay, that's definitely a cop out. It's definitely an
I mean,
answer
never have
for
I
sure.
seen in any type of ghost entertainment that idea that there's this whole other world that can still create other ghosts.
I don't think so. Not off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So, maybe they were like, hey, we're trailblazing here. We're creating a whole new type of ghost lore over here at Casper, the friendly
Okay,
ghost.
great.
But folks, myself, clearly yourself included, they didn't give
Unsatisfied.
up and they did not buy that. They were very unsatisfied. And so the speculation over the way this small boy died continued over the years until audiences finally got an answer, or at least an interpretation, in
Oh,
1995 when the movie was released by
yes.
Universal. And so
I
in
don't
that
remember this.
movie, apparently, Casper, he died when he was sledding in the snow and stayed out for too long, thus leading to him getting pneumonia and dying from that at age 11, which I
Oh,
feel like is probably the best story you could come up with. It's
yeah.
not a good situation either way, but I would
Yeah.
rather hear about a kid dying that way than some
Yeah,
very
from an
violent,
illness.
yeah, than,
Yeah.
being murdered or being
Yeah.
caught hit by a car. I don't know.
Well, even like I
There's
thought
just
you
so
were
many
gonna say
different.
he was left out there and died of hypothermia. And I was like, that's fucked up.
That's
This
what I
child
thought too.
suffered. Okay,
Yeah,
but
that's what,
yeah, I
yeah,
guess his
symptoms of
family found
pneumonia.
him at the
Yeah,
time.
he
If
had
you had pneumonia,
time.
it could be a death sentence.
Yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
it's not great, obviously. It's still
feels
very
bad.
sad regardless, but
Yeah.
that's that was the
Okay.
explanation that was given in that movie.
Okay.
I guess I'll accept it.
That's a
But
better one than the prior. Yeah. Okay.
yes, but also every new Casper show and movie that's come out since then, I guess other
Mhm.
than like the sequels to the 1995
Yeah.
movie, every new iteration has totally ignored that explanation and has just kind of gone back to like, I don't know, he's just a ghost. Like his parents are just ghosts. Like they
Okay,
never
got it.
really talk about it. So
That's
like
fine.
arguably it's fan fiction and like non-canonical, but like it is in the movie.
It is in
So
the
it's the
movie.
best we have. Yeah, it's the
And
best we
like,
have right
I
now.
mean, if if I were a ghost, I'd be like, why do you have to keep bringing it up? I'm not going to talk about it every time I
Yeah,
make a new friend.
yeah, yeah. But I mean,
Like,
I guess for me, it makes me wonder, and it's because we talk about ghosts and like the afterlife on
all
this
the
show
time.
so much that like for me, I always have to wonder, but if he's still a ghost, then it means something is
It's
not
keeping him.
fulfilled for him. Exactly.
Yes.
So that does make you wonder, like as a child, which I guess as a child, yeah, your whole life was not fulfilled. So obviously
Yeah.
there's a lot that you feel like you have left on the table, but you also have to like know that as a child, like
Yes.
you have to know that there was something that like you still have
You
to
still have to
resolve.
do. Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know,
What's tying
man.
him here still?
Sledding, yeah, like sledding in pneumonia doesn't quite sound like that. I was like, it sounds like it was probably something, unfortunately, a lot more traumatic and violent than
Yeah.
that, just from like my understanding of how ghosts and
Well,
haunting stuff works.
so
But
that was
like,
going to be my other question was like,
yeah,
wow, what an interesting message, especially for the time and in general in America to be like this child, in such the Christian world that we live in, this
yeah,
child didn't immediately go to heaven.
yes,
It's stuck in this
exactly,
limbo state because something has tied it
exactly.
here.
Exactly. And
for him.
especially this child who seems to be very friendly, like a good child, like who
Yeah.
has not been acting out in his life, like who has no reason, we would think, to not be given his instant pass to heaven or where the
Yes.
afterlife,
Yeah, it's an
know?
interesting
So,
message in
yeah,
this country and era.
an era. And we'll leave it at that because this is not that
Wow.
kind of podcast. But yeah, so I think that's interesting. The backstory of Casper, that's a
That's
mystery in and of
fascinating.
itself. So who knows how he died, but it probably wasn't great. And it's honestly a
Yeah.
very traumatic story, no matter how many smiles you put on this kid or how many little cute belly rolls and chubby cheeks you
How
draw
many
on him.
damn, I can't say
Synonyms,
it now because
cinnamons,
now I
how
think of you
many
saying
synonyms?
cinnamon. How many cinnamons, if you
Synonyms
will,
for
you sprinkle
for
on this
friendly.
child?
Yes. So that said, getting all of that traumatic backstory out of the
Well, it's
way,
fucked
we'll
up.
talk about this one time that he actually had a cute little Thanksgiving encounter,
Great.
again from this episode called Do or Diet. So
Mm.
the episode begins with Casper waking up early one morning in this clearly abandoned and like dilapidated, dusty, and old, disheveled house in the middle of this rural looking area. And we do see that it is his house because, like, the mailbox on the front has his name on it. So,
Mhm.
because when I see him in this house, I'm like, ooh, is he haunting this house? But then I see no one else in it. And I'm like, did he kill someone when he
Owns this
haunted it? Like, did he
house?
scare them and then take over the property?
Huh.
Or I don't
We don't know
know
how ghost real
if
estate
that's,
works.
we don't. But also, like, I feel like it had to happen that way because how could a boy, like, that young when he dies, 11 years old or
Yeah,
whatever,
he didn't own this
like,
house
how does he
before.
have property? Yeah, how did he own this
Yeah.
house? So it became his somehow. We'll leave it at
Uh-oh.
that.
There's a lot of
And
mystery in this show.
anyways, yes, there is. So he gets dressed, aka he just like takes off his PJs and he throws a white cloth over his invisible body, thus making him visible
That's
to
right.
appear as the Casper, the ghost we know.
Cute.
And he takes a look at his calendar and notices that today isn't just any day, it's Thanksgiving Day.
Great.
And he is immediately excited because he knows that it's another opportunity for him to get out there, celebrate the holiday by being friendly to other people and trying to make friends to
Mhm.
celebrate with. So he takes a little stroll down to a nearby farm to give his Thanksgiving greetings and, hopefully find a friend to eat some turkey with or just,
Mhm.
say hello to, have a nice little conversation with.
Yeah.
And at first, he encounters and immediately scares away a poor farm mule who's just eating his hay, enjoying the
Mhm.
day, and looks up and sees a ghost right in
Ghost
front of
child.
him. Ghost child with a New York accent coming at him out of nowhere. And so this obviously makes Casper pretty sad. He's like,
Yeah.
damn, I really thought that mule would like me. Like, I think by this
Mm.
point, he's already come across a few other friend or potential friends,
The
other farm
classic setup
animals.
of Casper.
Literally the I could probably skip the next few lines because it's literally the same thing that happened in the other
The
two episodes I just
rooster, the
talked about.
pig.
Exactly. But it's only after a few more steps that Casper starts to hear this very distressed and almost panicked sobbing noise coming from a nearby
Okay.
animal. And he hears this animal almost like murmuring and quickly talking about wanting to be free and pleading for its freedom.
Oh.
So Casper, he goes over to where the sound is coming from, and it's from a nearby coop, like a chicken or like a bird coop on this farm.
Mhm.
And he floats his way over inside of it, and he introduces himself to the only animal he sees in there, a very distressed but large turkey.
Turkey. Oh no.
And
Oh
this
God,
turkey,
another friend's gonna die.
this
Okay.
turkey is
Great.
anxious, pacing this coop, holding its head,
Smoking
crying,
cigarette.
pleading, basically like chain smoking cigarettes and tossing them out, saying, oh my God, I'm about to die. I'm about to be killed for, well, you know what
We
you
know.
already alluded to. Yes. And so Casper is trying to introduce himself to this turkey and say, I want to be your friend. Like, what's wrong? What's going on? And so the turkey says that his name is Timothy. And he goes on to tell Casper that, well, he is set to be Thanksgiving dinner tonight. and doesn't really want to have his head chopped off before also being cooked and eaten.
Uh,
So for a second or two, Casper is wholly unsure of how to even address this issue. He's just like, uh,
Actually, I was sent here to get the turkey.
this is awkward. I was hoping that just popping up in front of you would kill you and
I would
make it
give you a heart
quick so that
attack.
I could bring you out. And no, no, no. Casper is instead just like, I'm not trained in this. Like, I want friends, but I haven't been
Man, I've
trained in how
seen
to
a lot
like
of
help them
shit,
through
but
emotional struggles.
yeah.
Yeah. And so at this point, Casper just offers up the only suggestion to help that he can think of. And he tells Timothy that, Timothy, if you were thinner, no one would want to eat you, which
Oh,
I was like, I mean, true, but also really fucking rude. Basically saying, like,
you know
hey,
what?
if you lost weight, people would be nicer to you, Timothy.
You know what? 11-year-olds, they're gonna say whatever's on their mind. No
Whatever comes to
filter.
their mind.
No
Exactly. And
filter.
he takes that as a nice thing. Exactly. But yeah, at this point, I was like, damn, Casper, now I know why you actually don't have friends.
Savage. Yeah.
So, so Timothy, though, doesn't read it this way. And he's like, oh, yeah, you're right. Actually, that would be great if you could help me lose weight. Like, let's do it. I'm down.
Now.
And so,
Okay,
yeah, like now, in like the next 2 hours, let's go.
let's go.
So Casper, he starts coaching Timothy through some exercises on the farm. And, it's kind of like a montage or, they show a few different examples of it.
Uh-huh.
But in each case, every exercise that they do, Timothy just can't stop snacking on whatever food happens to be around him at the
Wait,
farm.
sorry. They're out
Because,
of
yeah,
the cage.
yeah, they're out of the coop. They're
Why
just
doesn't
like
Casper just
on,
let him go?
they're just going around on the, all over
Why
the
is
place, all over this property.
why
They're
doesn't
saying
Casper
on the
just open
property.
another gate to let the
I
turkey out into
think
the woods?
so. Also, a great point. I think that
Lumbering.
maybe yeah, that's a good point. I'm trying to think of an explanation, but there is no explanation for that. Like, I guess maybe he thinks that the farmer will see them going, but it doesn't matter
Or he just
because
like still wants
the
to
farmer
live
could
there, but just
see
not
the
die.
turkey. Yeah, yeah, let it
Okay,
happen, Grace. Let
I'm
it
sorry.
happen. So.
I take it all back.
But you're not wrong either, because there is a larger point that I'm trying to build around Casper here that
Okay,
like
okay.
this is actually a really dumb and not good friend. So
So that
like
added
don't
to your
yeah,
theory, I would
you just
say.
beat me to that punchline. Like I was gonna say it regarding something else that happens later, but yeah, you're
Okay,
right.
no,
Like I
we're
should have
just
been saying
building
it from two
evidence.
seconds in.
We're building evidence here. We're building a case, you know?
Yes. So yeah, Casper eventually sees that Timothy, he's not taking the training seriously because I mean he is a turkey who's been conditioned to eat so that he can be eaten
Yes.
on Thanksgiving Day. But Casper, he's like, well, I think it's too late. Like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I think it's
Mm,
too late to like stop him from snacking on things. No matter how many times I tell him that he's got to stop eating, he's not listening.
okay.
So once he sees that it's getting a little too close to head chopping off time, both because it's getting later in the day and because at one point he looks over and sees the farmer like getting real close to finishing sharpening that
Get
axe,
an
like
axe.
he
Oh
is.
God.
He is out there having a good time sharpening this axe,
Okay.
and it is
Okay.
looking sharp and pointier than ever.
Mm,
So
great.
Casper is like, all right, we need to take a more immediate, perhaps cosmetic approach to Timothy's alleged weight problems, depending
Okay.
on, your
Your view.
worldview. Yes. And so he decides to put a corset on the turkey,
Oh my God.
wraps and ties that shit extra tight, throws some glue and feathers on top of it so that it blends in with the rest of Timothy's
Okay.
body, throws Timothy back in the coop, and is like, just wait here. Don't eat or touch anything, or else like that thing is going to pop.
Good
So just
burst.
sit
Okay.
here. The farmer will see you and he'll think you're skinny and will be good. And
Okay.
so it actually kind of works because the farmer, shortly after that, he approaches the coop to grab the turkey and he looks in and he is absolutely shocked and devastated when he sees how thin Timothy is. Like
Okay.
he basically, and it's actually kind of sad. He's just like, well, and I'm paraphrasing here slightly, but the extent of which is like, I guess Thanksgiving is ruined. Which for me and you is literally a
Devastating.
crime. That is devastating. So at this point, I'm honestly like, fuck you, Casper. Like,
Yeah,
fuck
Casper.
you. Listen, I understand respecting animals and everything. I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan. So, like, I'm not that far on the spectrum of like, you
Well,
can't eat any animal. But there are some animals that are literally raised and very well raised and everything for like this specific holiday in
well,
particular.
my
And
thought
Timothy
is
was one of
like,
those animals.
this is like a
Like,
double whammy that Casper's pulling. Again, he should have just let this turkey free, and then the farmer would have just probably been like, I guess a coyote got him. Like, ah,
hmm
shucks, but like a coyote
yeah,
got
that's
him.
true too.
I
Yeah,
guess,
less out of
Thanksgiving's
your
now a
control.
bummer, but not ruined. It was like
Yeah.
more rude for Casper to be like, "Huh, now you can't even eat
You're
them
a
and it's in
horrible
your
farmer.
face." Yeah,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
your
And it's like
entire
shitting on the farmer.
livelihood is
Like,
bad.
exactly. Like you spent all year trying to prep this turkey and look at what you did. Like you should
Yeah, you
quit
did
your
a
job immediately,
shitty
sir.
job. You can't take care
Yeah.
of your family. Yeah, like
Yeah,
Casper is a
basically.
bad friend.
Fuck
Is
you.
Casper the
He's not,
villain?
yeah, he might be the villain. I mean, he is a ghost, so I mean, what do you want
Oh,
us to say?
plot twist.
So the farmer's pretty sad. He's crying. I think he's trying to figure out how to explain this to his family, who's probably very hungry. Like their farm doesn't look that much, their farmhouse doesn't look that much nicer than the one Casper is
Oh
living
God,
in. So like they're probably
devastating.
struggling too. But after the farmer leaves the coop with his head hanging low, Timothy, once he sees the coast is kind of clear, he sneaks in a few apples as a quick snack because, again,
Mm,
this bird
can't help it.
cannot stop eating. And, apples are good for you. But at this point, Timothy, he's a big boy. So anything being added to that
Nope.
waistline is too much for this corset. And this thing just one by one, like pin by pin, flies off. Strap
Yep.
just totally unwinds, and this thing busts wide open off of Timothy,
Yeah.
revealing the turkey's even more robust than before body. Cause like dude has been eating today. Like he is
Uh,
huge.
uh-huh.
And so the farmer hears this like popping and tearing noises from behind him, though. So he's like, what was that? And he
Uh-oh.
turns back around, runs to the coop, and immediately sees Timothy is like fat again and grabs
Hello.
him, like, hell yeah, let's go. He wastes no time. He ties Timothy violently down to a log, like really tying his
No.
neck and everything so that Timothy just cannot move.
Oh
And Timothy
God.
starts screaming for help, screaming,
This is
like
a
begging for him not to
pro-vegetarian
kill him.
episode.
It is. PETA endorsed
Wrote this.
this.
Yeah.
And they wrote it, yeah. And just as the farmer is getting ready to raise the axe above his head to make the first strike to
Oh
kill
God.
Timothy, Casper appears right in front of the farmer and demands that he stop and not hurt his friend.
Mhm.
And the farmer responds very reasonably, actually, I would say, as far as the humans in the show
Uh-huh.
go. He screams at the top of his lungs. He runs away in fear from the ghost that appears to have taken over his farm and his property. And he straight up grabs all of his belongings, his family,
Oh
his
my
whole
God.
damn house, and he runs the fuck out of town,
My
abandoning this
immediate
farm.
my immediate thought is like, okay, yeah, like runs and screams, that's reasonable. The rest of it, I'm like, did this man kill a child? And he's like, I've been caught.
It's the ghost of that boy I killed haunting me.
It's all over. We gotta split. Yeah, because I'm like, oh, it runs away into like, I don't know, gets a priest or some shit, but oh, that man has things buried on
No.
this property.
He can't afford an exorcist. Are you kidding me? He's like, nah,
So
we're getting
expensive.
out of here. So, yeah, seeing that Timothy is now safe though, because nobody owns this farm anymore, at least not
Hey,
for now.
ghost real
Casper, he's
estate.
like, exactly.
That's
Casper's like,
done.
oh, I have new land, and Timothy
Man.
is still alive.
And a friend.
Cool. So Casper takes the turkey back to the coop and takes one look at him like, all right, buddy, we got to start getting you ready for next year because he's obviously very fat again. So he's like, let's get this weight loss journey started because I
Oh,
don't want you to die next year, right? Like, I need you
yep.
to be my friend forever. Like, I
Uh-oh.
finally made a friend and I don't want you
Casper.
to ever be eaten.
Casper. Casper.
Yeah,
Casper.
sad. Like, it's
Casper.
very sad. But Timothy is a turkey, and turkeys are going to turkey, right? And this
Yeah.
turkey has been conditioned to just eat all the time so that he can eventually
Yeah.
be eaten for a meal. So even
Yeah.
though Casper immediately starts doing some stretches on Timothy and like coaching him through the next exercises, we see Timothy still chowing down on a heap of
Yep.
corn. Literally, like every time Casper turns his head or something,
Little
Timothy
snack.
just like eats a shit ton of corn.
Oh no.
And Casper, though, at this point, he's like, no, 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 I am not losing another friend. I fucking refuse to. He
Yeah.
ties a rope around Timothy's mouth so that he is physically unable to eat.
Oh my, Casper's the villain.
Casper is the villain.
Casper's the
And
villain.
I will say my last line of this is that this is super sad and upsetting because Timothy's going to die one way or another. Okay. He's either going to die of starvation because Casper has no concept of nutrition for humans, let alone
No.
turkeys. And he's literally
No.
starving him right now.
Oh my God.
Or he's going to die as a meal next Thanksgiving because, again, he's a farm raised turkey. So eventually someone is going to kill this turkey and eat him,
Yeah.
or he'll just
Yeah.
die because he's a turkey. I mean, like,
Yeah.
Casper's going to
Who's
lose another friend eventually. So he's
yes.
just a bit too naive and traumatized to
I think
realize that
probably
yet.
at his
And
own
the end.
hands. Oh my God, that's the end. It's just like he
That's
ties
the
it
end.
around his beak and says, "Okay, you're
And
my
they're
friend."
laughing. Yep, and he laughs at it as this turkey is unable to eat and how has his beak tied now. And
Casper's killing
yeah,
this
that's the
animal.
end. He's killing
Casper's
this
killing
animal.
a slow death for this animal. This is horrible.
Yep.
What the
Yep. I
fuck,
think when he
Casper?
says, I want you to be my friend. So maybe what has to happen is no, because he didn't kill that fox. I was like, maybe Casper has to kill it for the animal to die and come back in the afterlife and like be his friend.
But look,
you
if I'm
know?
that turkey, I'm coming back and being like, "Fuck you! You
Fuck
just
you, Casper.
starved
I'm
me to
haunting
death.
you.
Like
Yeah,
I just had a
you
year-long
killed me
slow death
because of
versus
you.
either a swift one or letting me be free
Mm-hmm.
and going on
Yeah.
my merry way in the woods."
Yep. And this is the
Wow.
one that Casper allowed to happen. So that's the end
Um,
of the Thanksgiving special of Casper the Friendly Ghost.
it was special. That was a
It was,
special
and
episode.
it did occur on Thanksgiving Day. So
These are two facts that
these
happened.
are, yes. I
Wow.
guess, yeah. Also, one last thing that I'll just put out there too that kind of crossed my mind is, do most people chop off the head of their turkeys and drain their blood on the day that they eat it? Or isn't
Um,
that something that needs to happen a little bit longer before? I don't know.
um,
I could be wrong. I've never done it before, so I can't
no,
say.
I think it does take a little bit to like process. Like if you're
Yeah.
just doing one for your family, it's so, like you can probably do that day of.
Yeah.
Um, but if you're like you're doing multiple, I think it's just more of a thing.
Yeah. Which at that point it's like assembly line type stuff anyways, but
Yeah,
if it's
we
like high volume.
yeah, no, I'm trying to think, Justin, for, I guess trigger warning for people who are vegan or
Are
vegetarian, which
vegetarians and
like
yeah,
we don't eat
sorry,
that much
we're
meat in
not,
our
but
house, but we do
yeah.
eat turkey on Thanksgiving Day. I'm a very big
Yeah.
believer in, getting your own food, that kind of stuff. So Justin last year
Yeah.
did like take part like at a local farm in like processing the turkey that we then had for Thanksgiving
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff
Yeah.
to, actually be hands-on with the food that we eat. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it
And
was
make
just like
sure
a
it's ethically raised and
yeah, it was like a
yeah.
handful
If
of
I'm gonna
folks, and
eat
it
an
was
animal, I want it to be treated well.
yeah, it was just a couple
Respect
days
your food.
beforehand, but like he was able to take it home that day, like the one that he helped
Nice.
process, kind of thing. So I
Okay,
think it can be a
cool.
day of. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Interesting. All
So
right, so there you go.
yeah,
I was wondering that, and I was like, I don't know if
yeah,
most farmers are like draining the blood right before putting it in the oven, but hey, I don't know.
yeah.
So,
I mean,
cool.
it does then also
Interesting.
take a long time to cook. So I guess if you're a bad
Yeah.
planner, you do it the day of.
Maybe, yeah.
But
Maybe this farmer was they're used to eating dinner late. It was going to be like a 9 p.m. kind of deal. Yeah.
unhinged for Thanksgiving.
So,
Wow. Well,
yeah,
great
as
job.
Casper is. Thank you. Yes. So,
I learned a lot this
sorry to
episode.
traumatize.
I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah.
I guess Casper is an arc we could throw in more often for these specials because he's a criminal,
Yeah.
a villain.
He is. He
Great.
is. And I mean, if not, taking a true crime aspect, to it, then we could at least look at it from like
Our
a very
spooky
spooky
aspect,
lens.
which
Like
we
he's
also
straight up
do.
haunting a lot of people. So
Yes.
yeah, there's a
Wow.
lot going on with Casper that needs to
Yeah.
be reevaluate. Probably has been reevaluated. He's a more cutesy character now, obviously, than he used to be. And writers now are not as hardened and PTSD'd out, war torn maybe as they were back then, so I think that they write more appropriately for family audiences.
For children now.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, but
great job.
This happened. This is part of animation history. So anyways,
it's deep history. Wow. Great job.
until we come back next week to cover Grace's next Thanksgiving themed, fall themed episode. Who should they tell about this podcast?
I similarly to what you said last week of like, I don't know if we've done this specifically or not, but I think you should tell a local farmer and to maybe look into, obviously I understand it can be prohibitive. We do live in food deserts. Sometimes it's hard to access local farmers, but if you're able to access a local farmer, look into if you are going to eat turkey this year, look into getting a turkey from a local farm and tell the local farmers, about it. We visit the farm that we get our turkey from beforehand and try and guess which turkey's ours. And bet on which one we think it's gonna be. And tell the local farmer they're out there working hard, up super early, you wouldn't have food without them, so tell your local farmer. And who else should they tell after that?
I guess after that, if you don't go straight to a farm to get it, but maybe you go to like your local butcher who gets it from a regional or local farm or something. If that's, what you can do, then maybe tell the butcher or, whatever meat shop you go to get it. Tell them to.
Nice. Perfect. Yeah. Butchers are usually pretty freaking cool too.
They are. I actually love them. Exactly. Because there's a really good one not too far from me here in DC that's like super local. They get all their stuff from like the DC, Maryland, Virginia area and really good quality stuff. So excellent. If you're going to eat meat, because again, I don't work for PETA, but if you are going to eat meat as someone who respects the hell out of food and out of animals, make sure you're getting animals that are treated right. Don't get animals that are tortured like this poor turkey was by Casper the friendly ghost. Casper the torturous ghost.
Oh, if you will. Yeah, friendly by his definition.
Yeah, not Casper's.
Nope. Wow, great.
Cool. So until next week.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on, so just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at SatmornMist, all the abreves, and let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.